before we start, thank you so much for being a part of this project. I really appreciate your time and the
It's okay.
dedication you put in this.
Anything for Victor.
Yeah, Victor, it's fantastic. So I'll start with the first question. You have dedicated your life to the service of art as a tool for peace. As a UNESCO, and currently you are a UNESCO Artist for Peace, the director of the UNESCO Dream Center of the Philippines as well. Could you please tell us a little bit about your experience?
Uh, I'm a war baby. I was born during the Japanese occupation. And my father was a guerrilla fighter for
Hmm.
our freedom. I never saw him. I'm a posthumous child. He
Hmm.
died before I was born. This has left a very strong anti-war emotion in me. And I, as a matter of fact, normally I really hated the Japanese when I was growing up.
Hmm.
However, in exile at La Mama Theater, I had worked with a lot of Japanese artists, and this has somehow, in a sense, became a healing process, that there was a direct contact and this kind of bonding through the arts had somehow healed the trauma and softened the rage. And it has built a very strong commitment to really prevent armed conflict.
Uh,
And working in the International Theatre Institute, but working as an artist myself in our country, when I founded the Philippine Educational Theatre Association, which is now 50 years old, and working with the ITI, which we also founded a center where we really focused on cultural exchange and understanding how important it is to have what you call a cultural diplomatic initiative, so that there is a better platform for knowing each other, for appreciating similarities, but at the same time also uh, having respect for differences. And that through the arts you can conscientize, you can uh, motivate a kind of vision to live in peace. That's the basic
so,
experience. I
the,
suppose that this has become the spine for my uh, work, creative work through peace or for peace.
this is a very profound reflection that you had when you started working with Japanese artists as a Filipino. So I have a question, like in an internal conflict like the one in Colombia, uh, it's very hard to have cultural exchanges inside of Colombia because of the geography, and I think a lot of the focus has been placed in creating exchanges from abroad. How do you think exchanges like the lesson you have to teach about yourself, being able to embrace the Japanese as the other, right? Uh, how could this be
Mm.
replicated in a Latin American context? Or could it?
How can this be replicated? I think it's really people to people experience. You can't just lecture on people. It must be either vicariously or experienced in reality, because the human contact is very important. But luckily, because of, you say, geopolitical reality or distance, technology can be used, art exchanges can be used. You now have right now we're communicating by Skype. There can be programs, there can be even friendly competitions in the arts that can be undertaken. The fact that you are, Victor, through the SSCC, is doing this, well, difficult gathering of people, from different distances to share experiences is a mammoth and important task because what can be consensually agreed upon can be easily shared globally. I mean, you can web stream or the conference itself can be simultaneously uh, accessed. You can document it and evolve it in an editing that is quite, let's say, experiential. It's not just all talk, but there is a very vivid experience of connectivity, of linkage, of bonding. For instance, I just came from the closing summit for the month of women, and women from all over the country were gathered. They were talking, they had resolutions, but when the performance was given, and it was given by all kinds of women, uh, handicapped, but we call them handicapable. We had young kids out of school. We have both Muslim and Christian together in the performance. It gives you immediately a perspective of cohesiveness, of unity, of caring, of compassion. And I think that's what's necessary to motivate. The problem with the technology, people are becoming insensitive, or they are not, or they're missing some close interrelationships, which is important. My own experience working with Japanese artists, Korean artists, all kinds of artists that I really didn't know them. I mean, I didn't know these people. It's what you learn in the books, and it's different from having a real personal contact.
Yes, that's very true. I'll move to the next question. In the recent Nobel Peace Prize Summit Assembly in Bogota, the Director General of UNESCO, Madame Bokova, gave the full support of UNESCO to the Colombian peace process. Can you give us some examples of ways in which
Well,
art can be used to strengthen and contribute to reconciliation?
naturally, the UNESCO Director General, who's a woman, is absolutely supportive of peace. And this is why UNESCO provides what you call uh, their recognition of artists for peace, or their goodwill ambassadors, who would, in a sense, help spread the gospel of peace. And in the Philippines, you will never have peace if there is inequality and injustice. And there is, of course, oppression. So it is important to attack the problem. And a lot of people think that art is just for entertainment. But it appeals to all of our senses as well as to reason. And if you are able to infuse with artistic integrity your messages, the values that you want to share in order to provide a better understanding of the problem, of resolving the problem, then it also means personally for people to reconcile conflicts within their minds. For instance, we have what we call cultural caregiving services. These are free arts, techno arts experiences that we bring to oppressed areas, in the sense slum areas or areas of armed conflict where there are victims, or areas where there are refugees of climate catastrophes. They are discombobulated. They are, in a sense, with the loss of life and the loss of home and loved ones and destruction of livelihood.
Hmm.
Some don't even want to live. They have a death wish. Has been effective. We go to even army camps because the children who have lost or are now orphaned, have lost their fathers, are also in a deep state of, well, despair sometimes. Not just despair, of course, you'll always be sad and sorrowful, but there is sometimes this moment of despair and rage.
Hmm.
How do you deal with it? It has to be within you. And the arts experience allows you to look into yourself, to express it, to connect with other people who are in the same state, and to see how they are building resilience themselves and be inspired to be resilient.
So, yeah, sorry, you keep going. I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt.
no, it's okay. You can just ask me questions. We've gone to prison ourselves. Uh, it's a violent situation, whether you like it or not, even if they are in prison. But we're able to reach them through the arts, even inspire conversion, and even build confidence so they themselves, through their artwork, through their music, through their drama, are able to, well, get out of the depth of their misery.
Currently, I'm working on a theater play that is written by and acted by war victims in Colombia in the Colombian conflict. And the intention of these victims is to present it in jails as a sign of reconciliation and to try to tell, the mercenaries that may or may not have killed their families that they are willing to have them back into society and to forgive them if they're willing to like accept their faults. And this has been a very difficult process. I totally sympathize with you, but I think the role of art can escape, the art gallery and whatnot, and wind up in spaces where it's supposedly not supposed to be, but it winds up having a very strong effect in society.
Well, there is a problem also in media.
Hmm.
What is presented is generally violent. It's not conducive, the guns, the proliferation of guns, and with a little conflict, you kill, or even just the cartoons. I
Hmm.
mean, you show kids these cartoons where they hit each other and they're not dead. They just rise up again and start going or doing the same thing, and you go into uh, a continuance of the, let's say, condition or situation where after you've hit the person, he's not really dead. You don't see the death and you don't see the agony.